Alright there geezers, Jules here from FGS, home of the Future Game Show, and one of the things that I absolutely adore about video games as a medium is the sheer power fantasy that they offer players. You could become a superhero with godlike powers, you could dominate your foes as a martial arts master, or just overcome that childhood trauma of always being picked last for sports and dominate the pitch as the top goal scorer of the South Devon Tier 3 Sunday Funday Bundesliga. Therefore, it's quite the shocker when video games will sometimes come along, peruse all of your hard-earned loot, and just say, "Ooh, nice, I really like what you've done with the place here, and yeah, I'll be having all of that, mate," and strip you of all of your amazing stuff. It's turning a power fantasy into an unpowered nightmare experience. So, let's have a chat about them then, as I'm Jules, this is FGS, and these are 8 video games that stole your bloody stuff. And you know the drill by now, this is the Deep Cut with Jules Gill, baby, so don't expect to see the likes of that corridor from Final Fantasy 15 or the naked Raiden scene from MGS2 or that bit in Dead Rising where Frank joins a nondescript cult or any such obvious picks because it's deep cuts only. Let's kick things off at number 8. Where's my cram, Pa? Wild Bastards. So we're going to be kicking off this episode by talking about a title that is rootin', and thanks to all the beans included in it, most definitely tootin', it's the sequel, I'm not going to do that voice ever again, it's the sequel to Void Bastards, Wild Bastards. In this cyberpunk Wild West experience, you've got but one mission on the table. Kill everything that stands in your way on your quest to a better life on the mythical homestead. And along the way, you'll recruit 13 different characters to play as, and each come with a unique moveset, loadout, and abilities. Yet just because you've got a saloon's worth of gunslingers doesn't mean that the path to get there is going to be an easy one, as thanks to procedurally generated worlds and a ton of horrible enemies and critters to face, you'll end up kicking the bucket often and sometimes being force-fed spittoon juice for good measure. I've just made myself feel sick thinking about that. Good. To add insult to the many injuries you've just now gotten, when you walk to a new location, all of the loot, money, also known as cram in this game, and all of your upgrades disintegrate into nothingness as the ship's warp drive can't hold on to materials not from that star system. Now, while it does make for a pretty good mechanic to make the player constantly feel on the back foot and prevent some game-breaking combinations from, well, utterly trivializing things, there's most definitely a feel-bad moment each and every time you warp and see potentially perfect loadouts just go up in smoke. Boo earns.
Are you saying boo or boo earns?
Number 7. Nothing but a chew toy. Resident Evil Containment Episode 3. Now, as we all know, the horror genre is one built on inverting power fantasy expectations. Instead of the player wielding monstrous powers, it's often the monsters themselves that will be so beefed up that butchers across the country are licking their lips at them. Yet, some games actually go one further than just making the enemies tough. They set out to actively make you feel positively weak, and that is absolutely the case in the truly impressive full conversion mod for Resident Evil 1, Resident Evil Containment, an expansion so big it had to be split across several expansion-like episodes. Oh yes! At the start of episode 3, after being turned into a crash test dummy and flung off a cliff, our hero / man who didn't get the memo to wear stealthy clothes on this stealth mission known as Ghost is left broken, bloodied, and with all of his gear either lost or crushed to pieces. Now this is a bit of a bummer, seeing as at the end of episode 2 you'll likely have amassed the usual assortment of resi goods and enough green herb to sweat profusely whenever you see a stop and search patrol on beat. Adding to the trauma of losing your weapons and how painful it would be to actually land on them in the first place, goodbye ribs, is the fact that you're on the lowest health possible and then are forced to stumble your way through multiple areas while being pursued by rabid dogs. It is possibly the worst way to start your day, outside of waking up and realizing that you're P. Diddy's defense lawyer. So yeah, Containment does not mess about here. You'll be fighting just to make it through the opening 5 minutes thanks to this game just coming along and saying, your stuff, I'll be having all of that. Number 6. Goodbye, Taser. Condemned Criminal Origins. Keeping with the horror classics for a moment, let's travel back in time and talk about the utterly brilliant but now unfortunately relatively obscure Condemned Criminal Origins, a title that sought to put the horror right under the lens by having players survey crime scenes in all of their gruesome glory. And for all of the chat that is usually done about the game's truly iconic locker sequence in which the dead aren't exactly dead at that point, people do seem to forget this other utterly horrific moment that happens during the final level. You see, up to this point, alongside the makeshift weapons that you'll get from segment to segment, you've been able to zap enemies with a powerful taser which stuns people for a pretty generous amount of time, allowing you to scientifically and methodically bash their bloody brains in. Plus, after you get an upgrade later on in the game, you can actually kill enemies with it as well. In fact, it becomes such a potent weapon that for many it became their immediate go-to. However, in the final chapter of the game, this becomes go full stop because the game, well, it takes the taser away from you. No, not Mr. Sparky, not my little pork crackling maker of justice. How will I play judge, jury, and electrocutioner now? All joking aside though, this is actually quite a harrowing and rather inspired moment on behalf of the devs to make you rely on a frankly overpowered piece of equipment and then rip it away from you in the closing moments. It is brutal, but also really effective. And speaking of tasers, I've got another thing that may shock you, my friends. A lot of people who watch this Deep Cuts series with Jules baby and the rest of our Future Game Show content aren't actually subscribed to the channel. But you know what, my friends? Do yourself a favor, click that subscribe button because you'll be able to stay up to date on all of our gaming content that release every single bloomin' day for you lovely people. And if you click the notification bell as well, then you'll be notified whenever I go live with these Deep every single Friday. Let's do this, mate. Let's make a party. Ooh, I'm bringing the sangria and apparently some sick moves. Let's tone it down now. Those sick moves, they're making everyone around me cough. Number 5, all of Goodboy Galaxy. Oh baby, break me up a slice of that deep cut crispy bake because we're going to be talking about Goodboy Galaxy, a game that came out in 2023 for a handheld console released 20 years before. That's right, this game was programmed and designed for the GOAT that was the Game Boy Advance. And you know what? Don't know why I'm doing this. It's utterly brilliant. Aside from looking like the Mutt's Nuts, this Poochie-based Metroidvania adventure oozes charm with every step, to the point where it feels like this game is just like a genuine gift. It just keeps on giving and giving. Well, that is until you reach these nasty checkpoints littered throughout the game, at which point you'll have your stuff stolen from right under your cute little nose. You see, normally you're equipped with a jetpack, a laser gun, and a load of other abilities, but these checkpoints remove one of your moves or items in order to make the preceding section that little bit harder. It's a wonderful way to constantly shift the balance of power, but it nevertheless does provide more than a few groans when you see little Maxwell here running away from every enemy because his blaster has now been confiscated. Still, for how incredibly well it's implemented, you have to give it up for the universe's best boy, and if you like the look of this game, and why wouldn't you, there's actually console and PC versions of this title coming out very soon. Well, at least according to the devs at least. Number 4, the bloody carbuncle. Sonic Shuffle. Okay, my friends, who remembers Sonic's foray into the world of party games? A few hands to be sure, that's definitely true. Now, hands up, who wishes they could forget that Sonic Shuffle ever actually existed? Oh, there's even more hands here, because you know what, my friend? Knowing is half the battle, and the other half is this abject nightmare known as Sonic Shuffle. You see, there's a reason why Sonic Shuffle was a one-and-done affair, but for those not in the know, let me break it down for you. This was a Mario Party clone in all the worst ways possible, and probably the only party game that I can think of where the mini-games were often the least fun aspect of the gameplay. Now, the objective here is to get the most precious stones, a name so bad it sits right up there with unobtainium from Avatar, and in order to do this you'll need to collect rings, win games, and use force jewels which act like power-ups. Well, at least for the most part. You see, I say this because there's one such force jewel that will utterly ruin your day, and it goes by the name of carbuncle. If you happen to net this purple force jewel, you'll find that after each turn, your stock of other power-ups goes down because this little turd right here is eating everything in your pockets. It's hard enough to win a game of Sonic Shuffle thanks to the AI being routinely broken and the devs clearly not understanding the concept of game balance. So to add this little thief into the mix really does feel like the game isn't just stealing your items, but is actively stealing any joy that you could have with the title itself. Cheers. Number 3, double womp womp whammy. Judge Dredd for the SNES. And now we talk about the chin that launched 1,000 ships and then sunk them because they crashed into its sheer rugged chinness. Judge Dredd and his absolutely bonkers difficult SNES game. Now, while looking like the utter business with its sumptuous sprite work and colour palette, Judge Dredd on the SNES was, well, much like the good Judge themselves, not a game that went easy on players and stuffed its levels full of enemies that shot the moment a pixel of them appeared on screen and was littered with a ton of environmental hazards to boot. It was, in short, a very difficult game. Luckily for you then, you've got a double whammy firing, grenade launching, armor piercing, shotgunning, heat seeking firearm in the shape of the Lawgiver, right? Right? Well, normally, yes, you would have access to all these modes thanks to the power-ups and special ammo you find, but when the game hits the section where Dredd is forced to walk the cursed earth, he finds himself with just a basic pistol. My stuff! My glorious face-melting stuff! Well, at least the locals around here are clothed in what amounts to a t-shirt stapled to a bin bag, so they should go down easy, right? Right? Oh God, not again. Yes, it turns out that this gun right here takes about 5 to 6 shots to see even a basic thug off. So have fun getting walloped and walloped over and over in this game. I am the law. My friend, you are not even a post-it note with the word ASBO written on it. Moving on. Number 2, Scrap Heap Challenge Warhammer style. Warhammer 40k Rogue Trader. Oh, bloody hell, oh, what's this? Oh, looks like somebody dropped a Warhammer game into this episode, Mark. I don't know, I better just read it out then, shouldn't I, really? I better just include it, right? I should just constantly talk about Warhammer, right? Anyway, I guess it's time to talk about the brilliant title that is Warhammer 40k Rogue Trader. Oh, God, bloody hell. Oh. A game that is so good that it is actively up there with some of the best games I've ever played. Well, until you hit this exact moment of the third act of the game. You see, up until this point in time, you and your ragtag crew have been sailing across multiple star systems, doing what a rogue trader does best, aka steal everything not nailed down, shooting everything guarding the things not nailed down, and then furrowing your brow intensely at anyone questioning your methods, likely before gunning them down and stealing their stuff that wasn't nailed down. It's a good life. And with all of this looting going on, you're going to be so stuffed full of gear that you won't even know what to do with it half the time. However, when you're captured by the Dark Eldar, tortured, probed, and then re-probed through the torture holes, you're then left at the bottom of a corpse slide with nothing but a rudimentary pistol. It's quite the change of pace, let me tell you, and making matters worse is that you're entirely alone as well and are forced to find the rest of your scattered party, which isn't just terrible from a combat perspective, but from a skill check one as well. Now, I never spec'd out my officer to use things like their hands or not be a total so yeah, strength and dex checks kind of left me with but a few wounds left and a massive dent to my pride. Yet if you thought things would be all lovely and sunny once you got the band back together, well, think again, my friends, as you're then thrown into a series of gladiatorial fights before you've got your group back to full strength, and you have to use the stuff that you've scavenged along the way, meaning that this is a true test of your endurance, your tactical skills, and of course, your ability to not cry at how unfair this all is. I just want my stuff back, please. They even stole my little servo skull familiar. That's not on. You crossed the line there, mates. Mr. Floaty Skull and I, we go around places together. We're inseparable. Doing that was like losing a limb. That's what he said when they cut his head off. See, that's the type of banter we have. And number 1, survival of the fastest. Jak X. And so we close on a video game that I still don't quite believe actually exists, and yet I've played through multiple times to 100% completion. Jak X, the weird attic family entry of the Jak and Daxter series, in which you forego pretty much everything identifiable from the prior 3 games and do a monstrous power slide into vehicular combat racing. And at the same time, also into obscurity, because all people played this game. But you know what? It's actually a pretty decent title. It's got lovely graphics, big, chunky driving mechanics that make your cars feel all weighty, and a full single-player campaign, and it gives us the weird crossover fact that maybe the Queens of the Stone Age band are in this universe because their music is used in the opening sequence of the bar, and then in the radio on his car. It's a weird time. Josh Homme with those big ears. Anyway, I digress, as is par for the course at this point in time, because all of this sets you up for what is in essence a badass simulator, with you cruising around at top speed, smashing apart foes and blasting other racers into base elements. All right up until the game goes, whoa now, hey now, whoa now. Nice ride you got there, my friend, but unfortunately that is not passing the MOT, so now I'm going to leave you with a rundown clunker that is now stripped of all of its weapons. Now I won't lie to you, friends. My main tactic in this game is to absolutely annihilate my opponent and then crawl over the finish line. But here, in this one instance, your car is rigged to explode should you use any weapons, and so have to rely on your driving skill. Now this on paper does sound like a refreshing challenge, but in practice kind of falls apart like Derek the dog strangler's alibi that he was just visiting Crufts to try the overpriced convention food, as the other racers, well, they don't have to follow these restrictions and will routinely murder you over and over, making your quest to get into first place a truly challenging proposition. Thankfully, you do get all your stuff back afterwards, but for this race, well, it really does feel like you brought a tricycle to a monster truck rally and then yelled, "Come have some if you think you're hard enough," just before the start. Good luck! And there we go, my friends. Those were 8 video games that stole your stuff. How dare they? How bloody dare they, right? Let me know what you thought about it down in the comments section below, and I hope that you enjoyed it. Let me know down there as well. And if you want to chat to me in the meantime, you can follow me over here on my social medias, and you can follow my lovely editor Mark on his social medias over here as well. But before I go, I just want to say one thing. Even though we spoke today about video games that stole all of your good times, let's instead give some good times instead by reminding ourselves each and every day just to be kind to ourselves. We deserve love, happiness, and success. We all do as human beings, all right? So just start your day with that bit of positivity. Remind yourself that you are a big ledge. Steel yourself, get your resolve ready, and get out there and smash your life goals, because I bloody believe in you, all right? As always, I've been Jules. You have been awesome. Never forget that, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.